Hello, everyone. I'm Yanni Harif, Head of Marketing at Worklight. And I'd like to thank you all for joining us for this special preview of our upcoming major release, addressing the critical challenges involved in extending mobile applications. Today, we're joined by Amit Ben-Sheffer, Director of Product Management at Worklight. We'll cover the main highlights of Worklight 4.2, which will be officially released next week. We've incorporated significant customer feedback and expert insight and have tracked emerging needs in the market today as we put this release together. I believe we're currently witnessing yet another major shift in how companies are implementing mobile technology, whether for consumer-facing or employee-facing scenarios, and anything in between. In fact, companies large and small are now developing and launching more apps, reaching more diverse target audiences with a wider range of scenarios, typically requiring more flexible development tools, advanced mobile infrastructure, and a robust enterprise-grade set of capabilities across the board. So in Worklight 4.2, we've incorporated the major new capabilities around these four central themes that you see here that we believe mirror the most critical challenges in extending mobile apps today. This will be the focus of the webinar. So first, how do some of these, a little bit more information about these challenges. First, how do you quickly respond to new mobile environments and devices and ensure that your apps are not only compatible, but that you can actually take advantage of new features introduced by the major mobile platform? Secondly, how to meet complex app requirements, manage team development, and avoid any inefficiencies in the cycle. Also, the increasingly intricate challenge of connecting with enterprise infrastructure and leveraging existing backend systems to drive information to users is becoming more and more complex. For example, the use of push mechanisms and how to handle a more intricate authentication process. And finally, the key challenge of ensuring app behavior and reliability in runtime, ensuring airtight security, and in general, making sure that IT in the organization has a stronger hold on all apps and associated infrastructure from a management perspective. So the constant drive to meet these challenges remains at the core of our technology, and we're excited to share some of these new developments in Worklight 4.2 and to share these with you today. Now, as always, please be sure to submit your questions at any time through the webinar console, and we will address these at the end of the session. I see we have quite a nice large group of people joining us, so I hope we can address all questions. We did allot additional time for this discussion, so I encourage you to submit questions at any time. And specifically focusing on how these features, these new developments, could be applied in your specific circumstance. First, a very quick introduction to Worklight to those of you who have yet to experience our technology. Worklight provides an open and flexible mobile app platform that really covers the entire life cycle of an enterprise app. So Worklight allows enterprise developers to build pure HTML5 mobile web apps, native apps, or hybrid apps, which essentially combine web and native coding within the same app and are becoming more and more popular. The platform goes beyond cross-platform development and provides really a range of capabilities for running and managing the apps, ensuring security and delivery, and much more. Our customers typically leverage Worklight for consumer-facing and employee-facing scenarios, as well as B2B types of engagement. And truly, the Worklight platform is positioned such as to support a cohesive mobile strategy and help you meet different needs across the organization. The platform itself is actually available for a free 30-day evaluation on our website at worklight.com/download. And you can also read more detailed information on the specific platform components and those are the Worklight Studio, the Worklight Server, the runtime device components, and the Worklight console, all on our website at worklight.com/product. So if you're eager to get your hands on Worklight 4.2, please stay tuned, as we will update you once the version is live on our website and available for download next week. And with that, let me hand it over to Amit to introduce the main highlights of Worklight 4.2.
Thanks, Yoni, and thank you all for joining us today. So it's been about 6 months since the previous major Worklight release, 4.1 last May. And during this period, we have made significant progress in enhancing Worklight technology, covering all aspects of enterprise mobile initiatives from application development to application management. Some of the new features here are already in use in specific customer implementations or have been released in interim releases, while some are presented here for the first time. Well, in an ever-changing mobile landscape, Worklight is committed to enabling you to develop and distribute your apps across the latest mobile operating systems and devices that are currently available. You know that just recently we also saw announcements of major new releases from Apple, Google, and Microsoft, including iOS 5, Android 4, Ice Cream Sandwich, and Windows Phone 7.5 Mango. Worklight 4.2 supports all of these new mobile operating system versions. We ensure that the Worklight client runtime components run successfully on these operating systems. And we adjusted the Worklight Studio where necessary to support the relevant SDKs, including Xcode 4.2 on Mac OS X Lion. This ensures that you can provide continuous service to your app users, and also when they upgrade their devices to the latest operating system version. And of course, you can also use the latest JavaScript and native APIs provided with these operating systems to enhance your applications. In addition to that, Worklight 4.2 also includes the latest version of PhoneGap, which is now, by the way, in transition to Apache under the new name Callback. So enterprise developers can benefit from the latest features, plugins, and fixes that are available with PhoneGap. We continue to enhance the integration of the Worklight server with enterprise infrastructure, and in 4.2, the Worklight server can also run on the IBM WebSphere application server version 7 and 8. We see significant traction in the enterprise for this type of deployment. In this version, we've also updated to the latest Tomcat version, 7.0.22, to include the latest Tomcat bug fixes and security patches. So, with this release, as with any release, in fact, our goal is to ensure that your mobile initiatives remain future-proof as new environments and devices are introduced into the market. So now let's take a look at some of the enhancements in Worklight 4.2 with regards first to application development. The build process is a very important part of any development, and development to mobile devices is not different in this aspect. In this version, we've significantly enhanced the build process and adjusted it to the enterprise development environment. Worklight 4.2 now includes a completely new build engine for creating native mobile projects out of your application source code. The new build engine is provided as an independent component. It is available as a standalone executable with command line interface. So now you can easily integrate the standalone builder with centralized build mechanisms such as Hudson, IBM Rational Jazz Builder, Lunt Build, or other popular technologies that you can use. In a complex development environment, your Worklight app may have dependencies on code developed by other teams. This can be JavaScript libraries, maybe other PhoneGap plugins, or even other native code that other people wrote. Using the new builder, you can now build your Worklight app as a part of a bigger build process running on every developer's machine and including other artifacts. When you want to build your app on your development machine, you can still access the new builder by right-clicking any app resource in the Eclipse Project Explorer, just as done before. In 4.2, you can also save time and build only a specific environment by selecting the Build Environment option in the right-click menu. By the way, as you can see, 4.2 also lets you preview your application directly from the Worklight Studio without having to open the Worklight console for that. Now, any developer knows that debugging is critical to streamline the mobile development effort, and the shorter the cycles are between building the app and debugging it, the more rapid your overall development process will become. To date, if you wanted to debug your hybrid application, you could use Worklight's preview command to view your application in a desktop browser, and then use the browser's debug tools such as Firebug or WebKit Inspector. But just recently, a range of remote debugging tools were introduced. These tools enable developers to debug their web resources while running them on an emulator or on an actual device, and this way get closer to the real-time environment of the application. Winery is one such tool, which was recently introduced and is now part of the Fonga project. In version 4.2, you can use Winery to debug your applications, and we included a dedicated training session on client-side debugging, specifying how to set up Winery in a Worklight environment and how to use it to debug your applications. So this is yet another example for how you can leverage Worklight's openness to use a freely available tool to deliver quality applications to your users. One of the key considerations in Worklight is to provide developers complete freedom and flexibility in developing their apps, while still making the bootstrap process as easy as possible. With this in mind, in Release 4.2, we simplified even further the structure of the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript templates that are generated by the Worklight Studio upon creating a new mobile environment for your application. So the new application HTML template now contains an empty body element. The content and div elements which were generated in previous versions are no longer generated, and in fact are no longer required. So you are free to structure your application just as you wish. And in addition, the JavaScript templates no longer require knowledge of object-oriented JavaScript development. This makes them easier to develop and understand, also by web developers who are not object-oriented experts. Of course, developers that do want to use an object-oriented paradigm are still free to pick up their favorite one and use it. The new templates not only simplify HTML and JavaScript coding of apps, but they also simplify using third-party JavaScript toolkits, such as FetchAttach or jQuery Mobile. To help developers even further with using these toolkits, we included 2 additional versions of the Worklight Starter in our training material, one based on FetchAttach and the other on jQuery Mobile. You can see the examples of the Worklight Starter on the screen. So you can, of course, download these examples and check their code to understand how these 2 popular toolkits can be used with Worklight to develop your applications. Again, at Worklight, we realize that different organizations have different needs. If you're developing an employee-facing app, you may not need significant user interface capabilities. But if you're working on a consumer-facing app, it may be critical to your success of your mobile application. So our approach is to provide you for your initiatives with as many tools as possible, such as these popular UI frameworks. To conclude this development section, we will introduce several new APIs that you may find useful. These additions to our significant client APIs cut across a range of capabilities, from connectivity through user interface to hardware support, and more. From connectivity perspective, in 4.2 you can initialize applications without trying to connect to the Worklight server at all, instead of trying to connect and then handle a connectivity failure. Obviously, this improves the application startup performance in offline mode and simplifies the application code. The Get Network Info interface enables you to retrieve various network properties from the device, including Wi-Fi name, connection type, mobile network type, and carrier name. Based on this information, your app can make runtime decisions as of which functionality to expose to the user or which user interface to display. Now, speaking of user interface, the Toast object in Android lets you invoke the Android Toast UI object, which is a temporarily appearing text box used to show informative messages. And the copy to clipboard method lets you programmatically copy data displayed in a web page to the clipboard. The override back button method adds support to the device's back button. The method works for Android as well as for Windows Phone, and it works exactly in the same way. So you can share code across these operating systems. And last, the fragment object is also supported now for Windows Phone Mango, which means that you can write complex HTML5 apps for Windows Phone Mango and split the code across multiple HTML files. So as always, we encourage you to submit suggestions for new features on app development or otherwise based on your requirements, as we will continue to enhance the Worklight platform's capabilities. And now, let's shift to the discussion over to enterprise integration with the organization's IT infrastructure. Two integration frameworks were significantly enhanced in version 4.2. The first is the push notification framework, and the second is the authentication integration framework, both include enhancements to server-side APIs and client-side APIs. So let's go first over the main benefits of the new push framework in version 4.2. Leveraging the push notification mechanism in your mobile application can greatly enhance user engagement and user experience, as well as ensure that you deliver content to users from your backend systems in a smooth and effective manner. Release 4.2 introduces a new server-side API for pushing notifications to mobile devices, again through the Apple and Google notification services. It also introduces matching JavaScript and Objective-C APIs for subscribing to notifications and handling them on the device. The flexibility of the new APIs and the Worklight push notification framework in general enables support for different scenarios. So let's go over them now. Application installed on multiple devices. In this scenario, the user can install the same application on multiple devices, for example, Android, phone, and an iPad, and subscribe for the notifications separately on each device. The server can decide whether to send a notification to all of the user's devices or only to one of them, again, according to your custom code. In the scenario of multiple event sources used in the same application, the application can allow the user to subscribe to notifications arriving from different event sources, like different corporate backend applications, and can define separate notification callbacks for those event sources. So this provides the application the necessary flexibility for handling each type of notification as appropriate. The third scenario is where multiple applications use the same event source. Here, different Worklight apps installed on the same device can subscribe to the same event source. Each subscription is maintained separately by the Worklight server and is delivered separately for each application. So again, each application can handle the notification separately as appropriate. And the last scenario I'd like to cover is where multiple users log into the same application on the same device. In this case, different users, such as different family members, log in to the same application and subscribe to notifications. Worklight can be configured so that it makes sure that only the notifications of the last user who logged in will be delivered to the device. We found these capabilities to be extremely useful for all kinds of applications, from lightweight marketing-oriented apps to complex transactional retail apps or financial services applications or internal employee-facing scenarios. The one thing that is shared across these different use cases is the need to engage the user and drive information effectively and reliably without affording extensive resources to support multiple push mechanisms. Now, let's go over the main benefits of the new authentication framework in version 4.2. Previous Worklight versions already included built-in authenticators and login modules, which were configurable using simple XML definitions. If you wanted to integrate with custom enterprise authentication services or implement complex login processes like two-step login processes or multi-factor login, you could do that by writing Java code and deploy it on the application server. Now, Worklight 4.2 introduces an additional way to implement authentication integration using Worklight adapters and in server-side JavaScript. In the authentication adapter, you can write the code that drives the login process. You expose procedures just with any adapter. The procedures receive credentials from the application, and as a result, you instruct the application with the next step in the login process. The authentication adapter, or maybe a different one, can also integrate with the corporate authentication, which is usually exposed as a set of web services. So maybe let's follow this example of a multi-step login process with a PIN code and a secret question and see how it is driven by an authentication adapter. So imagine your app needs to retrieve some sensitive user details exposed by some adapter. When it invokes some adapter's procedure, the Worklight server recognizes that the user session is not yet authenticated and invokes a procedure of your choice in the authentication adapter. In this case, it's called on-auth required. The procedure on-auth required returns a response to the application, and it tells the application to start the authentication sequence and display the first login screen. The application displays the login screen where the user can provide her PIN code. The app now invokes a procedure from the authentication adapter to validate the PIN code. The authentication adapter validates the PIN code and further drives the authentication process by instructing the app to display the second login screen. Now, the application displays a secret question to the user and invokes another procedure of the authentication adapter. And upon success, the authentication adapter responds positively, and the app can retrieve again the sensitive data, this time successfully. So in addition to being able to write this code in JavaScript within the adapter framework, there are additional benefits to implementing authentication with adapters. From development perspective, you can place your authentication code within a Worklight project and access it in the Worklight Studio, just like any integration code. You can easily check it in your source control system together with your apps and other adapters. From administration perspective, integration logic can be modified or upgraded through simple redeployment of the adapters. Since all adapters are visible in the Worklight console, as you can see on the screen, it is easy to see which types of authentication processes are supported by a particular Worklight server. It is also very easy to manage different types of authentication integrations, since each can be implemented and deployed in a different set of adapters. So I urge you to refer to the new training modules for authentication integration once we launch Worklight 4.2. These modules will describe the processes and APIs in detail and are also accompanied by full examples with server-side and client-side code that you can download and run. A few other points about the HTTP adapter in particular. Well, with the ubiquity of SOA, it's just natural that HTTP adapter is the most popular adapter for integrating with corporate applications. In version 4.2, we enhanced this adapter with some beneficial authentication and security features. From authentication perspective, the adapter can now be easily configured to perform basic NTLM, Kerberos, and digest authentication by a simple configuration of the connection policy. You can see that on the screen. You can see the snippets, the XML snippets on the screen. You can choose your preferred authentication mechanism as needed, and when the connectivity to the backend requires technical username and password, these can be stored in the Worklight properties file and encrypted if necessary, and be resolved in runtime by the Worklight server. By the way, this is very useful when you want to change the server identity across development and test and production systems while keeping the adapter configuration identical across these environments. So you can only have to change the Worklight properties file in the different environments, keeping the adapter code intact. Now, from security perspective, the HTTP adapter in Worklight 4.2 supports X509 certificates and secured proxies. If your backend application expects receiving signed SOAP messages from the servers it communicates with, you can use the signed SOAP message method to sign those SOAP envelopes with X509 certificates. This enables secure exchange of messages between the Worklight server and the backend application. In 4.2, you can also configure the HTTP adapter to work with a secured proxy, as you can see on the screen. Again, proxy credentials can be encrypted in the Worklight properties file and be resolved in runtime. So to summarize, all of these enhancements save you significant time in your mobile project implementation and help you adjust your integration to your corporate security policies. Now, to complement client-side debugging, Worklight 4.2 also enables debugging of server-side adapters. With the server-side debugger, you can debug your backend integration code and authentication integration code. In complex integration scenarios, and authentication integration can get complex, having a debugger in place is very helpful in shortening development time. As you can see on the screen, the server-side debugger in Worklight 4.2 is completely integrated with the Worklight Studio. It leverages the new JavaScript debugger available with Eclipse Helios. You can perform popular debugging actions such as viewing your JavaScript code, setting breakpoints, and monitoring variables. We've also included a new training module that describes how to set up Eclipse to use the debugger with the Worklight Studio. So just to reiterate the Worklight platform's debugging capabilities, version 4.2 supports end-to-end debugging of both server-side code and client-side code using excellent tools that are freely available for you as developers. Now, after you completed writing and debugging your application, you often want to pass it through a testing phase where several testers try it out on different devices, networks, and settings. In 4.2, there is a new feature for helping you to uncover such problems detected by testers out in the field and report them to developers. So applications built with Worklight Studio 4.2 automatically display a diagnostic screen when the Worklight client runtime detects a problem in the application. In 4.2, the problems detected are usually connectivity and initialization problems, as these are areas we found to be particularly sensitive when testing apps on various devices and networks. When the screen is displayed, application testers can easily email its content to developers or copy it to the clipboard and save it as a note, etc. This way, developers can receive first-hand account of problems occurring in their applications and work on getting these problems fixed. Worklight 4.2 also adds a connectivity settings screen for iOS and Android apps. You can see that screen on the right-hand side of the screen. These settings allow testers and demonstrators to ensure that their application communicates with the correct server and to change these settings if necessary. In addition to the many developer features introduced in Worklight 4.2, this version also contains enhancements to application management and security. The remote disable feature was introduced in version 4.1 and allows administrators to remotely disable applications after they have been installed on user devices. In version 4.2, we have enhanced this capability so that administrators can also specify an App Store or Marketplace URL where users can download the new application version once the current one is disabled. On the screen, you can see on the left-hand side the Worklight console, which administrators use to remotely disable the app, and on the right-hand side, how the application behaves when the App Store or Market URL was provided by the administrator. So for the users, this means it is much easier for them to download your next application version, and as a company, this enhances the continuity of your service. We continue to enhance Worklight mobile security features, as this remains a strong focus for our technology and area of critical importance, especially in enterprise context. Version 4.2 applications now support mobile device SSO, single sign-on, by simple configuration in the application descriptor. Now, how this works? When an application that is configured to use the device SSO connects to the Worklight server, the server checks whether there is an existing authenticated session from that device. If there is one, the Worklight server copies the authentication details from the existing session to the new one. This way it makes the new session automatically authenticated. Now this is a great benefit, especially in employee-facing apps, where companies usually develop multiple applications for employees and would like to avoid a bad user experience where the user has to re-enter his credentials each time he opens a corporate application. In 4.2, we also introduced a security improvement specific to iOS. So maybe this is worth some background. Whenever you press the iPhone or iPad central button while an application is running, iOS sends your app to the background. Just before doing that, iOS automatically takes a screenshot of your app and stores it on the device. Then it uses the screenshot when you invoke your application again. Actually, iOS does this to improve the user experience and make the impression that the application starts immediately once you invoke it to the foreground. Now, if your application displays sensitive user information, then storing screenshots on the device may compromise this information in some cases. So in such cases, you may want to change this behavior by hiding the screen or hiding the sensitive data or doing some other thing just before iOS takes a screenshot. So for this very purpose, Worklight 4.2 provides JavaScript API for controlling how your application behaves just before going to the background. The API provides built-in options for hiding the application screen, showing the splash image, and hiding elements with a specific style. And it also allows you to provide custom behavior if none of the built-in ones are sufficient for you. One last item I would like to cover before we move to the Q&A session refers to application distribution. As you know, with Worklight, you can package the apps and distribute them to your users through a range of options. Through the app stores, via internal company app stores, or as mobile web apps. With this latest release, we've added yet another way of allowing users to add their apps to their device. So the Worklight 4.2 console automatically generates a shortened URL using the bit.ly service and QR code image for easy access to mobile web applications. We found that some organizations really like this simple yet highly useful app distribution mechanism. Okay, this summarizes our preview of Worklight 4.2. The release will be available next week on worklight.com, together with extensive developer documentation and training material.
Thank you, Amit. And thank you, everyone, for sending in your questions. We're going to try to address all of them. First question coming in. I've already developed a number of apps using your platform, some deployed and some to be launched soon. How can I upgrade to the latest version without compromising my apps? That's a very appropriate question.
Okay, so actually there are two questions here. One regarding upgrading applications that are currently in development, and the other upgrading applications that have already been launched and installed on user devices. So these are two separate processes. For applications that are currently in development, all you have to do is to install the new Worklight server in your development, the new Worklight development environment, and rebuild your application. Worklight automatically makes all of the necessary changes in your project to adjust it to the latest version. Regarding applications that are out there that are installed on devices, the upcoming minor release of Worklight, which is 4.2.1, will automatically support applications that were previously developed over Worklight 4.0. So that to make sure that you ensure continuity of service to your applications that were already deployed. 4.2.1 will be available in a few weeks' time. And once you install it, you will be able to continue servicing your applications that are used by your users, and in parallel, upgrade them in your development environment so you can provide your version or release newer version of your application based on Worklight 4.2.
Thank you, Amit. The next question. I really like the diagnostic feature. Thank you very much. Can we leverage it for applications that are already knee-deep in development cycles?
Yes. So it's actually all of the features, all of the automatic features like the diagnostics features, the settings screen, the market URL in the remote disable feature, all of these are automatically available to your applications once you rebuild them over 4.2. So you don't have to do anything but rebuilding your application in order to benefit from these features.
Thanks. Is there the ability to update the application without a resubmission to the App Store?
Actually, this question refers maybe to a different Worklight feature called Direct Update, which allows you to do exactly that, to update application resources, the web application resources, without submitting the application to the App Store. Make sure, of course, For Android, there is no problem with doing that. There is no legal problem with doing that. You can push new application resources to your users without a problem. For Apple, usually App Store legal terms require that you submit new versions of the application to the App Store prior to, for scrutinizing, for approval prior to releasing them publicly to your user base. So obviously you would rather comply with the Apple legal terms when you submit your applications. By the way, this is only relevant for consumer applications. If you have employee-facing applications which do not have to be stored on, do not have to be uploaded to the public Apple Store anyway, you can safely use direct update to update the application.
And Amit, just to reiterate, specifically for iOS, when updating the application, I mean, there is a difference between updating a full version versus updating specific web resources through iOS. So that is still something that is possible to direct update. Is that correct?
Sure. Direct update allows you to update the application's web resources directly without going through the App Store. If you make changes to native resources in your application, then yes, you have to go through the full upgrade process via the App Store or Android Market.
Great. Another question: Can Worklight also use the C2DM from Android?
Definitely. Worklight supports both Apple APNS and Google's cloud-to-device messaging. This is C2DM. So both push notification services are supported by Worklight in a fully abstract way. I mean, as a developer, you process notifications, push notifications to devices, or subscribe to notifications while on the device, and you don't need to know whether the device is an Android device or an Apple device. All of the Worklight server takes care of the differences, uses the correct protocol, or implements the subscription and notification processes according to the protocols published by Apple and Android.
Great. And there's another follow-on question on push mechanisms. How do you handle the different policies for push mechanisms for Android and iOS with regard to sending specific messages at different timings?
So again, you can have various policies or various business policies as to which messages you push to which applications or to which users and which scenarios. Typically, these scenarios are not dependent on the target device. I mean, typically, organization would like to use a notification based on the data or its business meaning, and not based on the device that it needs to reach. From the technical perspective, Worklight maintains a database of all of the devices that subscribe to push notifications. It knows exactly to which operating system the device belongs, and uses the correct protocol when sending a notification to the device. So as a developer, this is completely transparent for you.
Great. Next question, and we just have time for a few more. If you have any, please submit them now. Can I access new iOS features such as iCloud and others? What's the typical process for supporting new OS versions and features with your platform?
So when a new operating system version is released, we in Worklight make sure that existing applications and existing software supports the new operating system. This is done rather quickly, usually. And the nice thing about it is that it allows you, once you take the appropriate Worklight version, it allows you to immediately use new features such as iCloud or other iOS 5 features or other Android features without having to wait for Worklight to support them specifically. And why is this? Because with Worklight, you have direct access to the native APIs and JavaScript APIs that are exposed by the operating system. So you do not need any additional software for Worklight in order to use iCloud or to use any other iOS feature. You only need the basic certification of the Worklight platform that it runs on iOS 5, etc.
Okay, thank you. And one final question. Does Worklight support offline sync? And if so, how is that done?
The answer for this is yes. You can implement offline sync with Worklight applications. This would be done using a combination of 2 or 3 different features. One, you can detect whether your application is online or offline using specific APIs in the Worklight client runtime. Secondly, when your application is offline, you can use the Worklight APIs to store, or you can use either straightforward JavaScript APIs or Worklight APIs to store data that you want to push, that you want to later sync with your backend servers. If you want this data to be stored securely on the device, you can use Worklight's secure offline cache, which encrypts the data with the user's password before storing it. If you don't care about encryption of this data, you can simply use standard JavaScript APIs for that, like web storage. Now, once connectivity is available back to your application, you can read this data and push it to your backend.
Great. Thank you very much, Amit. Thank you, everyone. I think just the final question that I will take is coming from a number of people asking when the version will be available for download. So Worklight 4.2 will be available next week, and we will update you all about the availability, and you can at that point go ahead and download. You see the relevant resources listed here on this slide. As Amit mentioned, we are augmenting our training module library, and I'm sure you'll find them very useful for some of these new features as well. So again, thank you for joining us, and any other remaining questions that come through, we will follow up separately. And I encourage you to go to worklight.com/download once Worklight 4.2 is available and try this out for yourself. Thank you very much.